Hey everyone, today we're going to be comparing the Patagonia Mini MLC and the Core Surf Island Hopper 2.0. This was actually a request on one of my previous comparison videos. It seemed like many people wanted to see how the Patagonia Mini MLC compared to the Allpa 28 from Cotopaxi. I don't actually have one of those at the moment to test out, but the Island Hopper 2.0 actually has a very similar layout and size to that bag, so I thought that this would still be a helpful comparison to talk about some of the similarities and differences between the bags. So excited to dive in. Before doing so, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Starting off with the overall aesthetic, to me both of these have a pretty functional and slightly outdoorsy vibe, but I like that they never feel overwhelmingly technical, and so I think that's going to allow them to blend in well into a lot of different environments and also work nicely for travel. As far as the materials, both of these feel really solidly built. With the Mini MLC, you have a recycled 300D ripstop fabric, and then with the Island Hopper 2.0, you also have kind of a ripstop nylon. And then with the Allpa 28 liter pack, you have an 840D nylon. And so of the three, that one feels like it's gonna offer maybe a little bit more durability, but in general, I've had great experiences with all three bags. And all of these are gonna offer a nice amount of weather resistance. I will say that the more kind of tarpaulin feeling material on the Allpa pack and even the texture that the Island Hopper 2.0 has just feel like they might offer a slight edge as far as the weather resistance, but I haven't really had any issues with the Mini MLC. I know that this still has a DWR coating, so in general, your items are gonna be protected from the elements, and then they're all gonna offer really nice working YKK zippers all throughout. With the Island Hopper 2.0, you do have the additional kind of coating on some of the zippers to give you that extra peace of mind. And all the bags come in at a pretty nice weight. I believe they're all under 3 pounds, and then there's slight variations between the three. So if weight is your highest priority, then you may lean towards the Island Hopper 2.0, I believe is the lightest of the three. And then it's a little bit closer between the Mini MLC and the Allpa 28 liter. But generally, I think that coming in at under 3 pounds kind of works well for the style of bags that these are and the features that you get for it. Continuing along the exterior, all three bags are going to offer some attachment points so that you can clip on additional gear that doesn't fit on the inside of the bag. And so with the Mini MLC, you have the 4 attachment points along the front, 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. I really like pairing these with a third-party strap so that I can just secure something like a yoga mat, a jacket, a skateboard. I don't always travel with those things, but it's nice to have the flexibility to just kind of attach different things on. And then with the Island Hopper 2.0, you have the 2 attachment points here at the top. You also have a YKK double-sided clip that's included with the bag, which is a nice touch. And then you have one more down at the bottom. So not quite the same layout there, but still providing some options for just clipping on gear that's not gonna go inside of the bag. And then both offer an external water bottle pocket, which is great to see. And so these offer pretty similar style, a nice amount of elasticity. They can both handle my 20-ounce water bottle comfortably, and so that will slide in there. I believe that they can handle a slightly larger one as well, but you can see here that they do a good job. And then the Allpa has a water bottle pocket as well. It feels similar in style and size, and both are going to offer good handle on the side so that you can carry the bag when you're not wearing it. They also have solid handle at the top that is going to be well reinforced. It seems like they get the job done. Pretty similar style. None of them go overboard as far as the padding that's provided. And then while we're talking about the handles, one additional call out for the Mini MLC is that you do have some additional webbing and attachment points here so you can clip items on with a carabiner. And then as far as the branding, the Mini MLC, the Island Hopper, and the Allpa pack all have fairly prominent branding. With Patagonia, you have this large logo along the front, which tons of people have called out. Definitely something that hopefully they make more subtle in the future, as it is a fairly large logo that kind of stands out. I've just kind of learned to live with it. And then with the Island Hopper, you have the Core Surf logo that feels like it blends in a little bit more. It's not quite as loud, particularly with the color combinations that have been picked here, but still kind of prominent near the top. And then with Cotopaxi, you have the logo on the front and on the center, and so it's still something that you can see. I do like their logo a bit more, that's just more subjective, but I think that it's a fun logo, and so it's a little different in that regard. I believe that it also has the Cotopaxi name. And then with the Island Hopper, you actually have the name of the model here on the sides. And so with all of these options, the branding is something that you're gonna have to deal with, and it'll really come down to just the style that's gonna be least obtrusive to you. And then the last thing I'll mention while we're talking about the exterior is how well the bags stand up on their own. The Mini MLC has always done a pretty good job of standing up when I've placed it down next to me when it's loaded out. It's got a fairly wide kind of flat bottom, and so that works out well. And with the Island Hopper and the Allpa, they are also able to do so, but I feel like it's been slightly less consistent just due to maybe the slightly rounded shape on the bottom. Generally, when it's been loaded out though, I feel like I still have been able to place it down consistently and access the pockets when I need to. Moving into the capacities, the Mini MLC comes in at about 30 liters and the Island Hopper 2.0 and Allpa Pack come in at around 28 liters. So both of these are gonna be a really versatile, minimal travel bag size. It feels like they can hold an impressive amount, more so than you would imagine for their kind of listed volumes. And on paper, the Mini MLC is listed at a slightly larger size, but as we'll see when we get into the layout, that can have a big impact on how the space is distributed. And in general, it didn't feel like there was a huge size difference, and the bags also feel pretty similar as you're wearing them. And I like that they're gonna offer a pretty, streamlined silhouette that doesn't stick out too much. It's not super bulky even when they're loaded out. They're on the taller side, so that's something that you wanna keep in mind. But generally it feels like a size that is comfortable for navigating crowded areas, for just walking around throughout the day. And they're both gonna be carry-on friendly on a variety of domestic and international airlines. They will definitely fit into pretty much any overhead storage compartment without any issues. As personal items, these are gonna be riskier on the stricter international airlines. I've used these bags and similar options on international airlines, but they are over the listed dimensions, and you may run into issues if you're asked to put the bags into a sizer or anything like that. And so you want to keep that in mind depending on the airline that you're going to be traveling with. But domestically here in the US, I've been able to comfortably use these as personal items and just slide them under the seat in front of me as well. Continuing with the harness system, so far the Mini MLC, the Island Hopper 2.0, and the Allpa Pack have all been comfortable to wear. They do have different approaches to the harness system, and so with the Mini MLC, you have a nice amount of padding on the shoulder straps, breathable material, good padding on the back. Not a ton of elevation, but generally this has felt comfortable even as I've been wearing it for a longer period of time. You also have the luggage pass-through here that allows you to rest this on your suitcase while you're traveling, and it's going to allow the bag to rest on its side, which makes sense given the other aspect that's unique about the Mini MLC, which is the fact that you can actually hide the straps away. You can actually release them here. You have these buckles at the bottom, you can store them, and you can turn it into a shoulder bag. And so there is this strap here that's included with the Mini MLC. I've talked about this in many videos. You can attach this to the side if you want to wear this on your shoulder, but this also works as a waist belt. So you can integrate it here into the bottom, and then you're gonna have a nice amount of support if you're walking around and you want to alleviate some of that weight off your shoulder. So really great system here. And I love that it's actually fully removable and that this offers a nice amount of kind of comfort on the strap. It's not just a simple strap. And so with the Island Hopper, you don't have any sort of a waist belt on the 28-liter size, which I actually like because I don't really use waist belts that much with a bag of this size. And with the Allpa Pack, you have an attached waist belt that you cannot remove. You can tuck it away, but I'm not a huge fan of that because it doesn't offer a ton of padding. It's just, pretty simple strap. So I would mostly just tuck it away and not really use it. So that's why I like that the Island Hopper doesn't really have that. And then as far as the straps on the Island Hopper, these offer a nice amount of padding and comfort. They're not gonna be as supportive or rigid as the ones on the Allpa Pack in particular. I really like the straps that Cotopaxi uses, and so that's where you see some of the differences between the two bags, but this still has a nice breathable material. You have a sternum strap, and then on the back panel, I really like the padding that's been included here. This feels very robust, well distributed. You're gonna have a nice amount of breathability with the air mesh and the air channels. And so this is an area where the Island Hopper stands out to me. The Allpa Pack also has a really comfortable back panel. I think that they both do a little bit of a better job than the Mini MLC as far as, just the comfort that's offered on the back. And then they're both gonna offer a luggage pass-through. The Island Hopper has it in the orientation that will allow you to stand the suitcase up. The Allpa pack has it more similar to the Mini MLC so that it's resting on its side. And so any of these will work fine. I might give a slight edge to the Allpa pack though, because the orientation of the luggage pass-through kind of matches up with the way that the laptop compartment is oriented as well. And then another nice touch with the Island Hopper is that you have two hidden zippered pockets. So if you need a secure place to store some documentation, cash, or anything like that, you have one pocket here. It's gonna offer a nice amount of space. And then you have another hidden compartment behind the luggage pass-through. So that's a nice bonus feature if you're carrying a couple of different things that you wanna keep a little bit more secure. Jumping into the organizational options, both of these are gonna offer quick access pockets. With the Mini MLC, you have one at the top that is very easy to get to, and I really like the amount of space that it provides, so it will work well for all types of items. Here I just have a headlamp at the moment, but this is where I will normally have my headphones, a charging cable. This does poke into the main area a little bit, so that's something that you'll have to think about, but generally this has worked very well. And then with the Island Hopper and the Allpa pack, you have a zippered quick access pocket on the front that's, gonna offer enough space for those same types of items, headphones, my charging cable, a flashlight, or anything like that. You can get to it very easily. And then with the Island Hopper and the Allpa, you have this really cool compartment that is also on the front that is super spacious. This is always one of my favorite things about using these bags, is just the flexibility that this pocket provides. You can put pouches in here, you can put bulkier headphones. At the moment, I have my sunglasses with a bulkier case, packable tote bag, and then I have my AR glasses. And so all of those fit in there very comfortably. There was still leftover space. And so this is just super flexible. You can put a packable jacket in here, your liquids while you're traveling. And then you have a little bit of internal organization, a zippered mesh pocket here to separate out some smaller items. So big fan of that style of compartment. And then the bags are all gonna provide external laptop access, which is great while traveling. And so with the Mini MLC, you have a dedicated compartment on the back that actually opens flat and includes some additional organization. And so you have a whole separate kind of work area here. And this is gonna offer a tablet sleeve and a laptop sleeve that you can secure with this Velcro strap. I like that they're padded and also properly pulled up off the bottom of the ground. And then on the other side, you have a couple of slip pockets here that are gonna be great for charging cables, additional tech accessories that you might be using. You have a zippered pocket on the bottom, and then a couple of slip pockets here at the top. I have a portable battery, place for a pen, stylus here, and then slightly padded compartment, maybe for a phone, a hard drive, little lanyard for your keys. And so, yeah, it's nice to have kind of a dedicated area for those types of accessories. I don't really need the compartment to open flat. I mostly just kind of open it a little bit at the top and reach in and grab my laptop while I'm traveling. But, it is an additional feature that it offers. And then with the Island Hopper and the Allpa pack, you have a large zippered pocket on the side that provides access to a padded laptop sleeve. And so you have a little bit of extra space here if you want to store a tablet or some documentation, and then you have a Velcro strap, any padded laptop sleeve. And so, this one here on the Island Hopper, it offers a little bit of padding. It's not the most rigid per se. It is also a little bit pulled up off the bottom of the ground. I believe that the newest version of the bag has some extra padding, so this area may have been improved if you purchase one of the newer versions. And then the Allpa pack has a similar style, but it just feels like it has some extra reinforcement because of the frame sheet that's provided on the Allpa pack. And yeah, so both of them are gonna have a similar style, easy to get to your device when you need to as you're going through security or if you're gonna be working. And so it really just kind of come down to preferences on whether you like having the style of compartment that the Mini MLC has or the Island Hopper or Allpa pack have on the side. The only difference is also gonna be that you don't get the kind of tech organization stuff that the Mini MLC had. And then moving into the main compartments, both of these have a travel-friendly layout, but it is going to be a little bit of a different style. So with the Mini MLC, you have more of a panel loader, and so it opens flat, and I'm always a big fan of that style. I've just gotten so used to packing this way for many years now, and at the moment I have my typical minimal travel setup here. I have a toiletry bag, an extra pair of shoes just kind of resting here at the top, and then you have a zippered mesh divider that will help kind of secure the items in the main packing area. And I just have my Peak Design setup here with small compressible packing cube and then the medium size. And both of those fit in there without any issue. On the inside here, pretty simple layout, no additional organization. You just have the quick access pocket that I showed earlier, which kind of pokes in here. So if you put something super bulky, it can take up some space. And then the other aspect here is that you can roll this divider up if you don't want to use it. And if you just kind of want to use this as more of a daily bag, kind of simplify it a little bit more. And so I've always thought that was kind of a nice touch. And then on the other side, you have a little bit of built-in organization on the lid, a couple of zippered pockets that do have a decent amount of volume. So I've always thought that they are quite usable. You could store pouches in here and it will kind of take up the space towards the outside of the bag so it won't impede the space that you have in the main area here. So that's a good, thoughtful design. The orientation here for the zippers also works well. If you're using this in briefcase mode or in shoulder bag mode, you can reach in from the side and access something if you need to. So I like that there's a couple of options, that it doesn't go overboard, and that they're all kind of effective to use even when the bag is loaded out, which is such an important aspect to me with many of the layouts for these travel bags. And then moving over to the Island Hopper, which again has a very similar layout to what we would see with the Allpa pack. You have more of a suitcase style opening here. So it's gonna offer the two sections for organizing your stuff. And so on the one side, you have a zippered mesh divider and a couple of compression straps. And at the moment I have just a Arkido packing cube here and a Peak Design pouch to kind of stand in for a toiletry bag. I'll toss in the Peak Design cubes in a second once I finish going through. Here you have a small mesh zippered pocket for any smaller accessories that you don't want falling down. I've used this for just storing a notebook, some documents, some extra cash, and then another zippered mesh divider. And this compartment also offers a good amount of volume, so I was still able to store a packing cube in here, and then a tech kit and a packable jacket. And so you have kind of independent volume, and this does go all the way up to the top, but it might start to share space with that quick access pocket that we saw earlier. So you have some flexibility in how you can organize. It'll just depend on the types of things that you're carrying. And yeah, you just have a little bit more as far as the layout with the Allpa pack and the Island Hopper. And I'll go ahead and toss in the Peak Design cubes that were on the other side, just to kind of do a true comparison as far as the capacity. Even though this is listed at 28 liters, it really doesn't feel like I'm sacrificing in terms of space with the bag. And that may come down to the fact that this doesn't have that dedicated tech area. And just having this larger compartment here that really kind of extends out quite a bit, you can really pack this out. And so I have the cubes in there without any issue. And then I also had my toiletry bag and an extra pair of shoes. And there's still leftover space here. I can throw in the packable jacket. I can even toss that tech case in, and all of this will close without any issue. You can see there. And so that works pretty well with the same loadout that I had in the Patagonia bag. And so I'll just swap them. I have the Arkido cube that will come in here. I have that Peak Design pouch here at the top. And then I can put that same packing cube in. And then I still have leftover space for the tech case that was in the Island Hopper. It could have fit in here. I'll just toss in some other stuff just to kind of fill it out. And yeah, it still looks like there's a little bit of space there. It doesn't feel overly packed out. You can still use the compartments on the front. And so both layouts to me feel really effective. They're gonna offer a nice amount of flexibility and hold an impressive amount of stuff. And which one is gonna be best for you will really come down to kind of packing preferences and how you like to organize your stuff. I think that the Island Hopper 2.0 and the Allpa pack offer that extra bit of flexibility as far as kind of mimicking the suitcase layout, having the two sides to separate your stuff. I know that there's a lot of people who like to organize in that manner. And then if you prefer maybe a slightly simpler panel loading style bag, the Mini MLC is gonna do that very well. The last thing I wanna talk about is the pricing. And so the Mini MLC from Patagonia comes in at about $200. The Allpa pack from Cotopaxi also comes in at about $200, and then the Island Hopper 2.0 is gonna come in at around $120, I believe. And so that is a fairly big difference between the Island Hopper and the other two bags. And so if price is gonna be the main determining factor, then that's gonna give this one a big edge. And then with Patagonia and Cotopaxi being, larger brands, well-known, it makes sense that they come in at a pretty similar price point. And so, they're gonna be an investment. None of them are super cheap. And with Patagonia and Cotopaxi, there may be a little bit more of a comfort level with the fact that they're larger brands. They've been around for a while, and I haven't had any issues with the Island Hopper 2.0 yet. I haven't been using it as long as something like the Mini MLC. I've now had this bag for a couple of years now and haven't had any issues whatsoever. But so far, the quality of the Core Surf, bags has felt really solid. And then to me, the Allpa pack really feels kind of like the most rugged option. And so on the materials front, I would say that that one probably has the edge, especially since it comes in at the same price as the Mini MLC. It just feels like it has that extra bit of ruggedness. And with the Allpa pack, I would say it's also the most comfortable of the three. So the harness system on that really feels like it just gives you a little bit more support and breathability. The frame sheet, everything just, if comfort is your top priority, then I'd still probably give the edge to the Allpa pack. I think all three are comfortable, but if I have to pick one, that's probably the one that I would lean towards. And besides that, the layout and the styles, I have just really loved the layout of the Mini MLC. I've been traveling with it for a long time, so I'm sure there's a little bit of a bias there. It's just a comfort level because that's how I've always packed things out. And I also like having the extra tech area. The laptop protection on the Mini MLC feels like the best of the three, just with the fact that it's properly suspended and it offers a good amount of padding. And so that gives it an edge. And then I also like the additional organization that's provided there. I think that works well. But if you're not somebody who's carrying those types of accessories, or you prefer to leave most of the space for actual packing, then that is something to consider with the Island Hopper and the Allpa pack. They don't have that kind of separate section, but to me that also feels like it helps it pack a little more in the main compartment. And so I know that's a lot of different things that I've called out between all the bags. So to kind of summarize, if price is your main concern, I think that the Island Hopper 2.0 from Core Surf is gonna be a great option that gives you many of the same benefits as the Allpa pack and the Mini MLC at its lower price point. And then between the Allpa pack and the Patagonia bag, in addition to the materials being a little bit more rugged on the Allpa pack, they also give you that suitcase style layout. And if you prefer to have that, extra bit of flexibility as far as how you can organize, if that style matches up with the way that you like to pack, I think that it's definitely worth taking a look at. And then with the Mini MLC, some of the things to consider there, in addition to the separate laptop and tech area, is the fact that this can be used in those different modes as a shoulder bag, as a brief, and it works well like that. And then if you also just prefer a simpler panel loading style bag, I think that can work well with a lot of packing styles. And regardless of which one you end up going with, I think you're still gonna get a rugged, versatile, and capable minimal travel bag option. And so that's it. Those are some of the similarities and differences between the Patagonia Mini MLC and the Island Hopper 2.0/Allpa 28. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if you have any questions on anything that I covered in the video or suggestions for similar bags that I should check out, as always, please let me know in the comments. And I'll make sure to include links in the description below to the dedicated reviews that I've done for these bags, as well as to some of the other comparison videos that I've done featuring the Mini MLC and similar options to that, as well as to the roundup videos where I've talked about some of my favorite personal item bags, favorite minimal travel bags. And if you have ideas for other roundup videos or comparisons that you'd like to see, please let me know about those as well. That's where I got the idea for this video, so I'm always on the lookout for those types of ideas. Please keep them coming, and I want to thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.